The Morning Buzz on WTMA.
ABC News 4 Pinpoint Weather Center meteorologist Tom Crawford on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Currently 79 degrees along the Carolina coast and 75 here at the Big Talker 1250 WTMA with your traffic and weather together. Every 10 minutes on the 8th, we welcome you to the Morning Buzz for this Wednesday, August the 10th. I'm Richard Todd, and next Tuesday, August the 16th, is the 34th anniversary of the death of the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley. And something happened on this show last February that just happened. Last February, there was an Elvis tribute artist tour coming to the Lowcountry, and we were talking about it. And then something just organically happened spontaneously on its own, and it has turned into a national story, and we're going to talk about that story. But first, to remind you, here is what happened on this program February 2010. It's a Morning Buzz flashback. Speaking of Elvis, you know, this Sunday at North Charleston Performing Arts Center is the big Elvis tribute concert, and Barbara on James On's giving us a buzz about the king of rock and roll. Hey, Barbara, thank you. Thank you very much for the buzz.
Hi.
How you doing?
Okay, I'm a little nervous about saying this because
Why?
I've kept this secret ever since 1956.
Oh, my God. Wait, this is a 50-year-old secret you're about to unveil on this radio station?
Yes.
Okay, I'm ready. We're ready. Okay, go ahead.
Well, there is a picture. Well, there are lots of pictures because Alfred Wertheimer was the photographer that was with Elvis and his crew and myself back in June of 1963.
Okay.
Or 56. I'm okay.
Okay.
And he took a lot of pictures, and they have become very famous in books and newspapers and all that all over the world. And I tried to contact Alfred years ago and do a story with him, but he wouldn't do it, and so I wouldn't give him my name. And all of my family keeps saying, you know, that picture has made him millions of dollars. You should really call or go over to the auditorium when they have the showing of all the pictures Sunday.
Well, what's the picture of, Barbara?
It's a picture, well, there are lots of them, but there's the whole day I spent in Richmond, Virginia with Elvis. And the main picture that's been famous everywhere is a picture of the two of us standing, touching tongues.
It's one of the most iconic pictures in rock and roll history, one of the legendary pictures in the history of the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley. And the lady, Barbara Gray, who is the center of that picture and the mystery revealed, is now joining us in the studio here at the Big Talker. Barbara, good morning, and how are you doing?
Good morning, Richard. I'm doing well and not nearly as nervous as I was a year ago.
Well, first of all, I got to say, I'm flattered that you were listening to the Morning Buzz. I really, really appreciate it. And when you called in that morning, it was stunning. And I think a lot of people didn't believe the veracity of your claim when you called in, didn't they?
No, they didn't.
You had to prove it, didn't you?
I did.
Well, joining us on the phone right now is the lady who has written an article about this in the most recent edition of Vanity Fair. This is a lady who is a journalist and biographer. Her job afforded her to become one of the journalists who actually viewed the remains of Elvis Presley. Her book, Elvis Aaron Presley, Revelations from the Memphis Mafia in 1995, and The Colonel, The Extraordinary Story of Colonel Tom Parker and Elvis Presley, really has written the book when it comes to Elvis Presley. And her latest article is in Vanity Fair magazine, unveiling the mystery revealed, the Elvis Kiss mystery. We say good morning to writer Alanna Nash. Good morning, Alanna. How are you doing?
Oh, Richard, I'm just fine. Thanks for having me on.
It is a pleasure to have you on and an honor to have Barbara in the studio with us. And so, Barbara, I mean, you tried, and you mentioned in the phone call, you've tried to contact the photographer in the past to lay claim to that was me, and things just over the years did not progress to where that was verified. When you called my program in February of last year, I mean, what was it that motivated you at that time to step up and say it's me?
Well, my husband had brought home a newspaper from work on USA Today that had the whole picture and story and everything, that the picture was in the Smithsonian Institute. And I thought, oh, my God, now I'm in the Smithsonian. I thought only dead people got in there. And, of course, Al had said once that he got in touch with the mother of that girl and that she was dead, that she had been killed in a car accident. So I thought, this isn't going to happen. So that's when I decided, because I found out that the book signing was also going to be here in Charleston. So they were giving out free tickets to go. And I didn't want to miss it, but I wasn't about to pay to go see myself.
I mean, for years it's been you, and you've kept this secret to a certain extent, and you've tried to lay claim to it to a certain extent as well. Like I have to ask you, Alanna, how big a mystery has this been in the world of Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll?
Well, really a huge mystery. People had wondered all these years who this woman was, and nobody could seem to figure it out. And I have been searching for her since 1978, and particularly when I wrote my newest book, Baby, Let's Play House, about all the women in his life, I had to find her. I had to find her, but I couldn't find her. So it was, everybody always wanted to know who she was. I think Al Wertheimer didn't want people to know who she was because she stood in for the universal woman. But all of the fans wanted to know who she was, and then photographic scholars wanted to know who she was because that picture has been compared to the famous Alfred Eisenstadt photograph, the 1945 BJ Day in Times Square. With the sailor and the nurse spontaneously kissing at the news of the end of World War II. But so there were two big photographic mysteries, and neither solved. And I was just determined I was going to be the one to solve one of them. But it really was the tip from your show that led to that.
Well, we are flattered and floored that Barbara not only listens but lives right here on James Island, correct?
Yes.
How long have
correct.
you lived in the Low Country?
I've been back now for 7 years. I'm originally from here.
You're originally from here?
Yes.
Now, the story, which Alanna does such a great job at writing about in Vanity Fair, and vanityfair.com, you can read it right now. What is your recollection, Barbara? Just you did a great job in describing the story with Matt Lauer on the Today Show on Monday, and just your recollection of meeting the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley. You didn't even know who he was, did you?
No, I didn't.
Was he a nice guy?
Oh, he was a very nice guy, and he was a lot of fun.
Disarmingly charming?
Yeah, I would say he was. He really was.
How would you describe yourself during that time period? Because I'm saying this with all due respect and as a total compliment. What a babe! I mean, that picture you're gorgeous.
Thank you.
A really sexy, borderline erotic photo. But it kind of developed in a way. And I guess first of all, what was the thing that set you apart as absolutely confirming that was you in the picture, as other women have tried to claim in the past? Was there one piece of evidence, one piece of information that maybe set you apart, that this is the person? Because reading in the story was when riding in the car over to the venue.
And absolutely. That was a big part of it, because when I spoke to Al back in the 70s on the phone long distance, I was living in Philadelphia, and I was married to a gentleman named Al, also named Al Satinoff. And he put me up to calling Al Wertheimer to tell him that I wanted one of the pictures because I wanted to write a book about my life. Not about Elvis, but about my life. And he was not going to do that. And so he kept asking me all these silly questions, and not only how tall was I, and, where was I from, and how old was I, and how tall was I. And finally he asked me, well, how many people were they in the cab when we were in the cab? And I said, there were 6 of us. And he said, oh, well, then you're not that girl, because there were only 5. And I said, just like I did on your program, hey, listen, go back and look in your pictures. You'll find the 6th person in there.
Well, I mean, and you had a better memory than the photographer did.
Yes, I did.
Alanna, can I ask you, as somebody who's been searching for this for 30 plus years, I mean, when did the light bulb go off for you that this is indeed the woman you've been looking for?
Well, there were 2 things for me, because I wasn't really thinking about the guitar case in the back and how many people were in the cab. But there were 2 things. Whenever a woman would call Al and say, I am the woman in the Kiss picture, almost the first thing he would ask her was, how tall are you? Because in the Kiss, you can't see it, but Elvis and the girl look as if they are about the same height, but only because Elvis is standing one step down on the stairwell. So women who would call Al Wertheimer would say, I'm 5'7", 5'8", 5'9", and then he'd say, no, you're not the girl, because he knew that the real girl was 4'10" or 4'11". So when I found out Barbara was 4'11", 4'10 and a half, somewhere around that, I caught my breath. But she also knew very tiny details about who was on that bill, who she talked to in between shows, the kinds of details that you can't really make up and convey with such confidence unless you really were there.
It's unbelievable how this all has transpired. Alanna, hang on for a second, and we have Barbara Gray in the studio. She is the mystery woman. Rock and roll history has been solved. Next Tuesday, the 34th anniversary of the death of the king of rock and roll. We're going to talk some more with these ladies. An amazing story that has transpired here on the Morning Buzz. But we unfortunately have some bad traffic to talk about that's transpiring right now here at 1250
Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Tom Crawford on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
It's 79 degrees along the Carolina coast and 75 here at the Big Talker 1250 WTMA with your traffic and weather together. I'm Richard Todd. We welcome you to the Morning Buzz, and we continue with journalist and biographer Alanna Nash. By the way, her book, Baby, Let's Play House, Elvis Presley and the Women Who Loved Him. You got to check that out, and check out her article in Vanity Fair that talks about this woman in the studio with us, Barbara Gray from James Island, the lady who was touching tongues with Elvis in 1956. Since then, I mean, you didn't know who he was when you met him, and you obviously really got along with him.
Oh, yeah.
In the subsequent years, as he became the king of rock and roll, you see him on Ed Sullivan, he becomes an icon in American history. Did you look back on that incident any differently as you saw him become who he was in front of your eyes?
Well, I admired him and respected him. I didn't particularly care for his music. I was always into jazz, and I was a very big fan and friend of Pat Boone. So when the picture came out originally, Pat's the person who called me and said, "What are you doing with my biggest rival in the National Enquirer?"
Hey, Alanna, the article that you've written in Vanity Fair, Barbara has an incredibly interesting story, and the story of the photo. I mean, were there details as you researched this that even you didn't know and discovered upon your research?
Well, I think just the fact that she knew there was a guitar in that car, in that cab. I knew that Junior had something there, but it didn't occur to me that was Elvis's guitar. So she, as Al said, Al has admitted, she knows his photographs better than he does, and he's been looking at them every day since he took them. But she could tell him things, and certainly told me things that nobody else saw. Well,
in the story that you told us back in last February, Barbara, it was obvious that Elvis had invited you to go with him up to New York to see the Steve Allen show, and you kind of rebuked him. You had a boyfriend at the time. Yes,
I did. And all that was talked about both on the phone from here in Charleston, and then when he sent the car for me and we drove, his cousin Gene and his road manager took me to Richmond to see him at that show, and then he invited me to go from that to New York for the Steve Allen show. But
you could have been. You were Priscilla before Priscilla.
Oh, yes.
You could have been.
Oh, yes. And many people have said that. You could be Mrs. Presley. Well, I don't think I made a mistake, because his life turned out very badly. And years later, he was in Philadelphia, and I was living there then, and he was appearing at one of the ballparks. And he had all this bad publicity about the drugs and all. And I had a drug and alcohol recovery center that I owned and operated. And I really wanted to go and see him and see if I could talk to him, and also talk to him about the Lord, because I was a Christian and I was trying to help him. But my pride got in there. I had gained weight. I didn't think I looked very good. And I thought, he won't even know who I am, and they probably won't let me in. So I never went. And I regret that from the bottom of my heart.
Any regrets as far as in keeping this a secret or in just not having it as exposed and known as internationally as it is now, obviously after Alanna Nash's column in Vanity Fair? I mean, do you wish in the 70s or more, I mean, in the 80s, I mean, after Elvis's death, that this had been unveiled then?
Well, that's why I called Al. I wanted it unveiled. I wanted to be able to tell people what a nice kid he was. He wasn't, a drug addict all his life. He was a good Christian boy, and I really wanted to share that with the public instead of having such an ugly picture of him being a fat, guy that was shouldn't be on stage and was a drug addict and divorced and, just all those ugly things. I wanted to see if I could change.
Well, it's obvious that you have chemistry in those series of pictures by Alfred Wertheimer, and a couple of beautiful people in 1956 and a beautiful lady still to this day, Barbara, and we are so flattered. And Alanna, I mean, this is the solution of a rock and roll mystery that's lingered for decades. It's pretty incredible, isn't it?
Well, it's wonderful. She's just a dream come true. If you have to uncover a mystery and you see what's at the end of the rainbow, so to speak, she truly is a pot of gold. She's so well spoken. She's beautiful inside and out, and she was a dream interview. I loved spending so much time with her, and I know we'll be friends for a long time. So it's just a win-win situation.
It's a fascinating read, folks, in Vanity Fair. Go to vanityfair.com and read Alanna Nash's piece on this Elvis Kiss mystery solved. The journalist and biographer, Alanna Nash, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we're so glad we could play a little role in solving this rock and roll mystery. And Barbara, I want to give you this. We found this at a yard sale here in the Low Country. My buddy Jack Hunter, the Southern Avenger, found this picture. I want to give that to you because that's you touching tongues with Elvis. I want to give that to you. Thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. I wanted to get the story out, and you did it.
Well, we are so flattered to have you as a listener of the Morning Buzz, and God bless you. You're still a beautiful lady. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Barbara Gray and Alanna Nash, and a mystery solved. WTMA News Time, 8:57.
He's done a lot of analyzing on the biggest issues.
Like a kid in a candy store.